Welcome back, all you MCU fans. We are joined by a very special guest tonight, Gary B, the casual comic guy. If you don't follow him on YouTube yet, I suggest you do. He's got a lot of great content there. Um, but tonight he's here to tell us everything that we got wrong in our roundup. And Gary, first, I want to say thank you for joining us tonight. I know you're a busy man.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Tim and I have been talking for weeks with this idea because Gary has been actively following our videos, listening to them when he can, and he's always there with a nice thumbs up, a comment, even though he's snickering inside, knowing that we're wrong. And we've had many
Not always.
people. Unfortunately, we've had many people who avoided the comment section and just sent me messages about how wrong I was and how Tim was often right. So we're going to settle the score with that tonight too. You are tuning in to what is actually our mid-season finale. So what a better way to send it off than having Gary here with us.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm happy we were able to make this come to fruition, gentlemen. And we did have an audience question, but we're going to close with that because I think it really sums up everything nicely. And we got a lot of thoughtful responses to that. So without further ado, we're going to reveal all of our scores with the averages, which we have yet to do. We're going to review and reveal our lowest scored film and highest scored film. And to be honest, I was very surprised by our highest scored film, simply because of where everything lands in the batch. And we're going to go by phase here for Gary to make it easy on him, because we jammed in a lot in our 8 or 9 episodes. So Gary, when we broke down Iron Man, Tim said 7.5. I said 7. We got an average of 7.25. You think that's fair?
I think you guys actually rated that one a little low. And I only say a little low because I would give that, I would give it an 8.5. And here's why. One, it was the introduction. It had that film had a lot of setup to do. So the MCU was either gonna start from there or fail from there. So they had to hook you right away. They had to give you a character that had to have a journey, that wasn't a good person. Just like when Stanley created him, he created him as a jerk and made it so people had to like him in spite of who he was. They did that great. They cast it perfectly with Robert Downey Jr. They took that shot. And for me, that's a solid 8.5 because it introduces a universe. That end credit scene was amazing. And his journey from pompous ass to seeing the harm that he's put out in the world, even though he's just a businessman, he's seeing what the product he has can do when it reaches the wrong hands. Now I know Tim really liked Obadiah Stane. I liked Obadiah Stane, but part of the problem with this movie and why it doesn't get a 9 or higher for me is this started out with Marvel's villain issues, right? With copycat villains. All Obadiah Stane is a copy of Iron Man once he steals a suit of armor.
And I thought that was interesting when you said that, and I couldn't get that thought out of my head after you told me that at the comic shop that one day. It's interesting because I saw this movie like 20 times in the theaters, as I previously said. And it just goes down a little bit for me, mostly because of Terrence Howard being just so goddamn awful in that movie. And his appearance.
I'll agree with you on that. He was the only letdown of this film for me because he came across so dry and stiff, and you just couldn't engage with his character.
Yes, and that totally ruined it for me because I love what we have as Rudy now. So, all right, Tim and I were a little bit low there. Our voyage continued to The Incredible Hulk, where Tim, our Thunderbolt Ross stan, couldn't get enough of this shitty movie. I gave it a 5. Came out with an average of 6.25. Whose side are you on, Gary?
I'm on Tim's side on this one. I thought this was a good movie. Edward Norton was decent in it, but he's not my Hulk. All right, that's gonna be the guy that comes later. We'll talk about him when we get to Ruffalo. We'll talk about Ruffalo. But I thought this movie did a lot of good things. One, it established the Hulk as a legitimate presence in the MCU. I thought some of the characters were off. Like nobody cared about the guy that Betty was with, that wanted to marry her.
Mhm.
Um, but Betty, right? Now I'm blanking because I'm an old man.
What are we talking?
His girlfriend, Bruce Banner's girlfriend,
Yeah.
Betty Ross. Yeah, Betty. Yeah, but I thought she was really good in it too. I thought some of it was a little over the top, but the action scenes were great. The Hulk looked amazing in it. Tim Roth was good, but again, and this is another one. I'll give it an 8. I thought the Stanley cameo was really clever. I liked him on the run. I liked him using Tantra to try
Mhm.
to keep the beast inside. But it gets better when you learn he's always angry in the Avengers, right? But I thought again, as much as I thought the Abomination was cool, one, it was a great end fight scene, and I love when he just drops out of the helicopter, knowing he's just going to land and Hulk out.
That was one of
But
the
again,
pluses.
copycat villain, same power set as the hero. So this is like a theme that Marvel had to get away from, which they eventually do.
So you matched Tim's rating exactly on this one. Tim, you got mute on, buddy.
What a
Are you?
rookie!
Well,
Thanks.
actually,
Thought I was here with professionals. I'm out.
I think Tim. I think Tim is such a professional. He's going to try to mime his way through tonight.
Right?
Yeah, I'm a charades master. Um,
Dictionary edition.
but those copycat villains can get different enough when you factor in the villain's personality. It doesn't work as well with someone like Darren Cross, but when you get like Tim Roth and Emil Blonsky, he has such a firm character who has such drive towards becoming stronger. I think that meshes well with Bruce, who doesn't want to be strong at all.
And I'll agree with that. But I think the other place where this movie failed is it had a great setup for the leader and it didn't follow through with it.
Oh yeah, I agree. That was one of my
I mean,
notes.
after this movie, I wanted the leader.
Tim Blake Nelson's fantastic.
Right. And the leader is such an iconic Hulk villain, and played right could be such a force in the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. God damn it, Tim got the point on that one. So, Iron Man 2 is actually one of 3 movies that Tim and I agreed on the score of, which is surprising.
Only 3?
Only 3. We both scored it 8. It got 8 across the board. We both love the heart. We love the change in War Machine and the evolution of Tony coming to grips, actually using his mind instead of just the suits. All of that worked for us. What do you think, Gary?
I also didn't hate this movie like most people did. One, I thought the way they introduced Black Widow was brilliant because she was espionage, she was undercover, and that scene where she's taking out everybody in a hallway and Happy Hogan is fighting one guy the whole scene and finally puts him down and he's all proud. It's just gold.
John Favreau makes that movie for me.
She looked deadly. She looked fatal. Happy Hogan is probably one of the best supporting characters in the MCU movies.
Agreed.
John Favreau's great as him. I thought the villain, and I'm not talking about Whiplash, I liked his story and his motivation. And that further led into Tony Stark's development as a character.
Mm-hmm.
But oh shoot, what was the other guy's name from? What was his industry?
Justin Hammer.
Yes, Justin Hammer. That guy's a great actor, but I thought they made him too needy of Tony's approval and everybody else's approval. A guy that's gotten that far and developed that much wouldn't be that whiny or needy. And although he had an element of cutthroat to him, he wasn't he was he was too submissive in some scenes for me and not take charge. He wouldn't have got where he was if he didn't have a take charge attitude.
Right.
So I thought he failed a little, and not because of the acting, because of the writing. But overall, I give it an 8. And then, that end scene is cool. But then, of course, more copycat villains just without people in them when they're surrounded by a whole thing. But that scene was still great. Just to see him and War Machine back to back, just lighting it up was amazing.
Yeah.
And just to see Don Cheadle take over the role and add so much charisma to the character was great.
I think, and with this film, I think it really set off the chemistry of a lot of what was to come for the whole franchise. This is the Iron Man and Incredible Hulk didn't really have that chemistry, but this was the first time we saw this group, this cluster of actors forge that family that they seem to have become.
He
had a great intro line. I'm here, it's me, get over
it. And he might as well have come into this movie saying, "Bam, you looking for this?" But yeah, it was cool to see Tony use like his that like OP like red laser that you always see like pop out of his arm. And just to know about Whiplash, I put in one of my notes that he just didn't have a lot of screen time, which was disappointing. So I felt like they did put his his whips to good use, especially in that final battle there. But I just feel like it could have been more.
Yeah, I mean, Mickey Rourke put in such a performance on there to be used for 5 minutes. So Gary, then we get to Thor. Tim gave it a 5.5. I gave it a 3. This was actually my second. Oh, it's tied for my lowest ranked movie. Guess what the other one is? For an average of 4.25. I'm curious, how'd we do?
Oh, well, this is the one where I think you both sucked a lot of butt. All right. You guys totally missed the ball on this one. This movie was a great introduction to a god. All right. You not only did you have the incredible director of Kenneth Branagh, who knows how to bring pomp and grandeur to the screen.
I will agree with that.
The introduction of Chris Hemsworth and the fish out of water story that was Thor was a good balance, and Asgard looked amazing. It looked regal. It looked elegant. There was a presence of godhood about it. And then you're bringing Thor down to earth, who has no idea how to act amongst humans. He's just there and everyone's automatically going to worship him. This is a guy who hasn't faced adversity before. This is his first time really facing adversity in new situations. And I thought they played it well. And what I liked about this introduction is Thor is a more godlike, serious character than the comedic one they turned him into, where he was less godlike and more bro Thor. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but Thor to me was always this regal presence among mortals. And he needed to be that. And the way he walked around on screen, you felt it. And I did like the Destroyer a lot. I do think probably the weakest part of this film is the final fight. I thought the story was good, and I thought where this movie missed the ball was on the final fight. The final fight was meh, and I thought the rest of the movie was good. And I didn't have the problem with Natalie Portman that everybody else did. I think she's a great actress. I liked her and Chris Hemsworth together, and I liked the doctor, and I love the Kat Dennings character.
Yeah, Kat Dennings made the movie for me. I'll have another.
She saved it.
Second thing I like, she did. So we're both wrong here. All right, we can take that.
Oh wait, which one of you voted for Kat Dennings and against Kat Dennings?
We were both.
We both loved. Yeah.
Huh?
We were both for
liked
Kat
her?
Dennings. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. She.
All right. Good. Yeah. But yeah,
Darcy.
I think you both missed the boat on this one. No points for either of you.
We ate butt there. Captain America: The First Avenger. Tim went with 6.5. I went with 5. Average of 5.75. I thought it was boring, useless, and served no purpose in the MCU. Was what I said. And Tim, if I recall correctly, thought it was just a bit boring in that The characters didn't really get developed. Was that the gist of you, Tim?
Yeah. I did mention that I really enjoyed the World War II rescue scene, as well as his trip through basic training, and with the likes of Zola and Red Skull, I just felt like it could be a little too cartoony at times.
Where'd we go wrong, Gary?
All right. First of all, we're gonna give Tim the edge on this one, so Tim gets a point on this one.
Ah,
All right. And this is one I really thought you guys missed the ball on quite a bit, because I think you guys missed the heart of what this movie was. Now, everybody loves Chris Evans as Captain America in the MCU. But would you love him as much without this movie? And I don't think you would. This movie set up the heart of Steve Rogers. You needed all the introduction, because what this first movie was, you have this scrawny guy that's getting picked on. And what happens in most movies to scrawny people that get picked on that come into power, right? They use it for wrong. And what this movie did was portray the true heart that Steve Rogers has inside him, right? He could have turned that way. And instead, it just enhanced everything that was noble and good about him. When he jumps on that grenade, when he's going through the journey, when he's just happy that he got picked to represent his country and fight for his country, even taking the menial role as being the war bonds spokesperson for a while, and pretty much a joke until he got a chance to prove himself. And I thought Joe did a good job directing this and really, really brought out the heart of Steve Rogers, the character. And I didn't think it was cartoony, actually. I was worried that the Red Skull wouldn't look good. I thought the Red Skull looked menacing. And the only part I thought was cartoony was Armin Zola. He was a little overplayed, but I thought Hugo Weaving was great as the Red Skull. He felt threatening, and he was a good foil to Captain America. And you just had no idea. Like, this movie the more I look back at this movie, the more I like it than I liked it the first time, because it set up so many key things for the journey, not only him, but Bucky Barnes. All this was set up brilliantly in this first movie. And this movie has a heart to it I don't think it gets credit for. And I don't think any of us would be tied to those two characters with as much as we are without this movie.
That's
what I said the whole time.
It's a very valid
What's
point,
that?
actually.
It's what I said the whole time.
Yeah.
The only real gripe that I have with this movie is the CGI on Chris Evans before he got the serum. I just couldn't believe it. That short of stature with that deep of a voice, I just couldn't believe it. They definitely tried, and they got close, but just something that
very minuscule people with big voices and very huge people with tiny voices. I mean, come on, look at Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
So now I'm just picturing Mike Tyson saying Captain America lines. So thanks, Gary. So now I come to the Avengers, which Tim and I is the second movie we tied on, the second of three. We each gave it a 6. And with that score, that actually rounds out phase 1 at 6.25 for an average. But the Avengers overall, how do we do?
Okay, let's see. We're gonna give give me your highlights so far for both of you though on this one.
So the Avengers,
why a 6? Like, what were your grievances with this one?
It was cheesy as hell, to be quite honest. The writing was awful. I wasn't a big fan of the CGI either. The chemistry between the characters didn't seem to be there because it was so disjointed. It's like they spent all this time world building to get them on the same stage, and then they're like, well, shit, what do I do now? It's like you get up the courage to ask this girl out, and then you're there in front of her, and it's like, well, now I don't know what to say. And that's kind of what I felt about this movie. I think Tim actually had different critiques about the movie. That was my main thing.
Yeah, Yeah, my biggest one is that I wasn't ready to see Loki as a villain again. I thought it was too soon. And also Cap's costume was awful. I know they played it off like, you know, Coulson wanted it to be a little bit more old fashioned. I but I really liked the banter in the movie. But it just dragged a little too much.
All right, so I'm I don't think you guys are totally off the ball with this one. I would
Whoa.
give it a little bit of a higher rating. I'd say a 7. And the reason I'm going to give this one a 7, like it definitely suffers with the rewatch, but to give this one a 7 is because of what it accomplished a few things. One, it made a team movie that no one had ever really made before, as big as a blockbuster as it was. I do agree. Josh Whedon loves his campy dialogue. Tim, you're right about Cap's costume. Like every time I saw that costume in that movie, it kind of distracted me. It looked a little cartoony. You know, like Underoos. So,
Yeah.
you know, but when the team came together, it was amazing. I really liked the action at the end, and I liked finally seeing Hawkeye in battle and just the accuracy he had and kind of depicted
Yeah.
a mortal man kind of among gods and that he did have something to offer. I like that representation. Black Widow was still kick ass. You got the famous line, "I'm always angry," which was probably one of the best lines in the MCU, even regardless of any other dialogue issues you may have with the movie. My issue again with this one, throwaway villains. In the first two Avengers movies really suffer from this.
Yeah.
You have mass armies that are defeated by defeating one person or one thing, and then they all collapse and go away. It's like the old sci-fi movies of the 80s, right? You kill the villain and their whole castle collapses. Well, why would that happen? Or their whole base goes down automatically, right?
It's like you
In
don't
this
just
one,
lose the villain, you have to lose everything associated with that villain.
Yeah, it's
right.
definitely a throwaway villain because not only do you see, you know, the leader of the Chitauri just get his neck broken in Guardians just casually. You never hear from the Chitauri again.
Right.
Yeah.
And I thought I didn't have a problem with Loki, probably because Tom Hiddleston just has so much charm and charisma as the character.
Yeah.
And seeing the Hulk throw him around, even though that CGI was a little wonky, was hilarious. And so I really liked that part, and I think he played it well, and it's paying dividends now, of course, with this new series. But the Chitauri overall were underwhelming. There were a bunch of villains that, yeah, it was fun to watch the Hulk smash them, but there was no grandeur to beating them.
No, not at all.
It was just all right. We're just gonna go through these plastic models, destroy them all. Boom, boom, boom. Let's go on. And it was just too much of a tease to set up Thanos.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think I said this when Tim and I went through, is I'm really not a Joss Whedon fan for the most part, and this movie was
Either.
just reeking of Joss Whedon, so it just really made it hard for me to get through. So that's phase one. We're breezing, guys.
Yeah.
And we've only eaten but once so far, Tim, so we're doing good.
And Tim, you're up to nothing.
Yeah, you're keeping score too. God damn it. So
because you both tied twice. So
phase one saw. Oh, actually, no, did it? Okay, phase two is going to get our lowest score. So we come to Iron Man 3, which I admittedly going into this hated Iron Man 3. It's one I'd only watched twice until this rewatch. It had probably been about a 4 in my book. Tim gave it a 9. I gave it an 8. Like the character in the movie, I also matured in my viewing of it. But 8.5 average. I love your face, Tim. We both love the heart that went with it. The story arcs were great. My big beef with the Mandarin had kind of blinded me from everything else happening in the movie, that because I didn't get the Mandarin. So on my third watch, I finally appreciated what we were getting. And Tim was also really high in this movie.
Yeah, I really loved the fake Mandarin. I thought Ben Kingsley nailed it. Even though it seemed, for the type of actor he is, it seemed a little below his pay grade.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had such when I was writing my notes for you, Gary, I had such a hard time coming up with any negatives about the movie.
I like this movie more than I know that this is another one people like to hate on because of the Mandarin Eagle. I liked it because it gave you something you didn't expect. And again, it was another deconstruction of the Tony Stark character. What I wanted out of this movie was a little, I liked the story arcs, but I wanted a little more Iron Man action.
Mhm.
And I thought it lacked in that. It was great seeing Pepper in the end, taking some of the armor and working. You had the house party protocol, which I thought was a cool concept. The Ben Kingsley, I thought he was great because when you're first watching that, just the way he's delivering those lines is menacing. And then he's just this twerpy little character, and
Yeah.
you need a real actor to pull that off. And he was just being fed with money and drugs and women, and
Mhm. And a speedboat.
in a speedboat. Yep. And this was also the culmination of his line at the end of Iron Man 1 coming to bite him in the ass when they destroyed his home. I am Iron Man. And then being so arrogant as to put your address out there, like no one could ever best you.
Right.
And so I thought his characterization was good. I thought the PTSD element of it went on a little long for him.
Mhm.
Because I think Tony is such a character of overconfidence. I think he would have developed and got over that a little bit sooner to fight, because he's not someone that likes to be pushed around or that likes to be controlled by anything, even if it's PTSD or his own doubts. He doesn't like, the character himself doesn't like to be controlled by anything.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I mean,
that's-
I would I'm going to give the point to Tim on this one though, because I think it's around the 9.
Oh, God damn it, Tim.
I mean, I just don't know why Fing Fang Foom wasn't in it. No, just
I agree.
I wholeheartedly agree. I don't care who else in that. We need to see that. Now we come to Thor: The Dark World, which everyone knows is my favorite movie. Tim gave it a 5. I gave it a 3, average of 4. I'll never have my time back for watching this 3 times now. And I will smite myself for sitting through it. Gary, where did we go wrong?
Yeah, well, you and I already had a little bit of conversation about this. I like this movie more than most people do. One, it gives us more Loki in his development story, and him just always aired his way into something he doesn't mean because his ego's in his way. I like that it kind of went in a space sci-fi element with the ships and stuff. I thought were cool. I like the ether, although I did think it was a little convenient that it ended up in Jane Foster. So I'll give you guys that. Like I do, and I'm still a Jane Foster fan, and everyone was hating on her. Now everyone's getting back on board because she's going to be a Thor. And so all of a sudden, but this movie I thought did a lot more to set up in the MCU than people give it credit for. Malekith ended up being kind of a throwaway villain, but this kind of set up the relationship with Thor and Loki having to work together and become more brothers than they were ever before. Yeah. And this is also Loki having to start learning from his mistakes. He sent people after his brother and they killed his mom. That's pretty horrific. Mm-hmm. And that's something he can't escape. And now he can't just be the trickster. Now the pranks he's pulling, the mischief he's causing, the misdirections he's doing are actually having consequences for him that he couldn't foresee and that he doesn't want to face. It's not like he cares about villainous consequences, but there's personal stakes in this for Loki that weren't there before. And still the maturing of Thor. Was it a perfect movie? No, I didn't like it though. And I'll give this higher than you guys. I'll give it a 6.5. And I still like Kat Dennings' character a lot in this.
She's even better this time around.
Right. And I thought the crazy professor was funny.
could do without him.
I like the guy. I think Skarsgård got some good charisma.
Those are the only
Well-
two characters I enjoyed at all in the movie.
Yeah. Well, Malekith definitely had his problems. This time around, I really found a lot of problems with Curse. He was ugly as sin, and not in a good way. I wish he looked more like his comic book counterpart.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been dope.
So Gary gave a little love to Thor: Dark World.
Yeah.
Now we're on to Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Well, does that mean I get the W since I was, Price is Right rules?
No, Gary told us both to fuck off.
He did.
So I lied earlier. I guess there were 4 movies we tied on because Winter Soldier, Tim and I both gave an 8.5 on this film. We both loved the fight scenes, the Bucky. We happened to be watching that one while we were watching Falcon Winter Soldier. So our Bucky love was kind of high too. And it was a lot of fun and a lot of good fight scenes. What do you think, Gary?
Well, I agree. This is definitely one of the highlights in the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
Even Fat Rock, he's kind of a throwaway villain to me. Both times we saw him, I didn't really tie into the character, and the guy playing him obviously is a fighter, not an actor, so he was just okay to me. But I like what it established in this movie. I like that it established Bucky. I like that it established Widow as more of she's her own operative. You can't really. She's always working on something, and you don't always know what the Widow's up to. And I like that it created trust issues between her and Captain America, which further developed those characters and gave them a whole nother journey to go on.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you see Steve Rogers' heart in this when he's trying to save Bucky and trying to he's letting himself get whooped and almost killed just to try to get through to this childhood friend of his that protected him and was a brother to him his whole life, and whose death he felt responsible for too at one point.
I felt like this was the first time we saw Cap be Cap. This was
definite improvement on the suit over the Avengers suit.
Oh, without a doubt. And I think this was Chris Evans' coming out party as Cap, to be quite honest. I mean, he really owned the role. It looked good on him finally, not just the suit, but the role as a whole. So we did 8.5. What do you give it?
Ooh, you know what? I'll agree with you guys. 8.5.
Hey.
We'll all agree on this one.
We got an agreed party.
Yeah, I think people love the elevator scene, but I think the extension of that scene with him, falling, taking the quick way down to the lobby, and oh my god, that takedown of that ship with the motorcycle was just so unappreciated.
It is, and I like that he's not the naive captain anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
He's grown into his role in this movie. He's caught himself kind of up. There's things he doesn't understand, but he understands what's really going on around him as far as people playing him or a danger element that's there trying to mislead him. Like, that's the great thing about that scene. Like, there wasn't a moment that he was fooled in that elevator. He knew,
right.
All right, we're going to do this, and again, and we didn't even think you brought in that, the great actor. Of course, I'm blanking on his name now.
Robert Redford.
Yes. Robert Redford.
Oh yeah.
And, someone of that, and just that whole scene at the end too. And Natasha's already in there. She's already infiltrated. Just like they did a lot for Natasha in this movie too. Her character went through a journey as well, which I liked. And the way they built her and Captain's relationship of respect was really good in this film.
Yeah, a lot of good chemistry and dynamics on that one. Then we get to Guardians of the Galaxy, their first installment. Tim went with a surprising 8. I thought he was going to be higher than me, actually. And I went with a 9 for an average score 8.5. Obviously, the soundtrack is amazing. The introduction of these characters that nobody knew about was incredible. What do you think, Gary?
Well, first I'm going to say this is where you get the point.
Hey!
You're on the board, 2-1.
Can't go too hard on him.
So
I'm on the board.
This movie was complete joy from beginning to end. This movie is what nobody expected, and you went into it, and every single one of these characters just worked so well together, and the circumstances they were in were great. They were hilarious, but they had consequences, and this was the best Band of Misfits movie I had seen in a long time. And the soundtrack was amazing. The intro was great. And you got Star-Lord, who's got the pomp and arrogance of Tony Stark without having the capabilities and brain of a Tony Stark. So it's all just bravado because no one ever told him he wasn't the best. Right. So
Yeah.
and you got him learning these lessons over and over again throughout the movie. And the introduction of Rocket and Groot is amazing, and the chemistry that they had was great. And just this team coming together from people who are villains and people who aren't, to unite them with a common purpose. And I thought this movie was one of the ones in the MCU that actually fired on every single cylinder and is just about flawless as a movie. And clever too. It gave you the big scenes you wanted. The escape out of the prison. And I think one of the most iconic images in this movie, and I don't think people mention it enough, gave that one scene where Star-Lord's just going through space, and that could have been a cover of a comic. That was that was just captured that character perfectly right then.
What are you talking about, when he went to save Gamora, or when he after he saved his tape recorder, or his Walkman?
Yeah, when he was just like going through space. Both are great.
Yeah.
But I can't remember which one. I think it was when he first took off and it just showed him gliding through space. I think it was when he was going for his Walkman, probably.
Yeah.
But it was great. And also these characters by the end, man, that scene where they're talking and they're a bunch of a bunch of assholes or whatever it was great.
Yeah.
And it was just dialogue that needed to be in a film like this. And it just like, I have a plan, and all that dialogue was great, and the acting was good, and I don't know, you really connected with all these characters, and this just furthered my belief that you can put Zoe Saldana in any sci-fi franchise and make it better.
Yeah, I firmly agree with that. So now on to Ultron. Tim and I differed immensely on this film. Tim went with an 8.5, I went with a 6. We got a 7.25 average score. This was a waste of James Spader. It was a waste of budget for CGI because they didn't pull it out. I thought the story was trash. The writing was trash. I liked a few of the characters in it. Tim really enjoyed it.
Yeah, my main gripe came with Ultron's look. I hated his like realistic mouth, and I wish he looked more like his minions there in the final battle, more of that like jack-o'-lantern look that he has in the comics.
Now this is where the end ties it up.
Hey.
2-2.
No taste.
There's things I love about this movie, but at the same time, it's probably one of the most forgettable ones in the MCU. It has great set pieces. The party scene is great. The battle at the beginning is great.
Mm-hmm.
The introduction of Wanda and Quicksilver is awesome. The parts that hold it back are the Whedonisms in this.
Yeah.
And again, Whedon did the same thing. You have one big villain and a bunch of minions that are defeated by defeating one person. Now you had great action scenes, like with that highway chase was amazing. But all these incredible set pieces and scenes and these moments that these characters have are completely diminished by a wasted battle at the end that was just a copycat from the first Avengers movie and an easy way out from, he just did the same thing. It's like he loses direction at the end, and all right, big fight scene with a lot of foot soldiers that you don't care about dying. So it kind of took away from the stakes because you just saw the big Avengers Assemble scene again at the end, and I thought it was a waste to have Quicksilver in a movie and kill him off that quickly. You didn't give
Yeah.
the character time to develop. If you would have gave him a couple movies before you killed him off, I think you would have felt his death a lot more. And I think it was a waste of the actor, Aaron Taylor Johnson, who I don't think gets enough credit for what a good actor he is.
I
So,
think
Tim,
we'll
you're
agree
wrong.
then. I think we'll agree though later on towards the end about a very strong opinion I have along those same lines of being introduced and dying in the same movie. So I'll let Dan have this one. Yeah, I agree. I agree with Pietro. I also thought that Claw wasn't around enough. It was cool to see him in this movie, but I don't think he definitely
felt like a
got the
throw-
shaft.
He was
He
a
did,
throwaway
and he got the
character.
shaft in both movies he appeared in.
Yeah.
Especially that was a waste of a great actor with great screen presence.
Not just a great actor, but one of our earliest villains. You know, when you go comic wise, he was introduced long
Right.
ago, and I mean, it's long overdue to have him have a solid role. And I think Gary and I talked for like a half hour about that at Rhinos one day. It's just what a waste he was both times around. Now we get to the last movie that Tim and I agreed on, Ant-Man. We had nines across the board. Thought it was funny. We thought that Paul Rudd was perfect for this. We were both surprised to find out that this was our highest rated movie of the entire franchise thus far. But I think deservedly so when you look at the cast, the separation from all the serious tones that we've received thus far. You know, the movie's kind of stopped being fun, you know, and it's just, they're so dark, serious, and the world's always on need. And then Ant-Man comes along and we get toy trains blowing up in size and ants rolling around and a father-daughter story. And God, I remember when I first saw it, you know, I was always so young. I'm just like, holy shit, this is amazing. So I remember my biggest takeaway from it was like, why does it feel like Paul Rudd was built for this role? And then to find out that he was involved in the writing of the role, I'm like, oh, well, that makes perfect sense now. So what's your take on our Ageless Wonder, Gary?
This is another one that all three of us are going to agree on.
Nice.
Hey,
Ant-Man was fantastic. And this is one where I actually like the copycat villain as opposed to you on this one, Tim. I actually like Darren Cross. I thought he was kind of ruthless. Like there was a lot of fun in this, but when he killed that guy in the bathroom, that was kind of gross.
Yeah.
And I don't think people give that enough credit for what he did in that scene was really quite diabolical and menacing.
Yeah, I really love Darren. And
right. And Paul Rudd was great. Then I really liked Evangeline Lilly. I like seeing her in something again from Lost, and I thought she was great. And Michael Douglas was good as Hank Pym. And
CGI.
I thought it was a clever move on Marvel to put that Ant-Man in the past and start with the Scott Lang Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that Ant-Man story would have resonated as much in the modern if they had started him out then. And he kind of needed to be around since the old days to develop him. So that made a lot of sense to me. Because at first I was thrown off that it was going to be Scott Lang. And then as soon as you're watching and it showed you things you hadn't seen before in a Marvel movie, which I really thought worked for it as well.
Well, it was also smart, you know, when we look at who we got, you know, when they're time traveling, Tony's meeting with his dad, and there's a young Hank Pym in the background scene too. It gave them so much potential, and it's really one of those times where you see like, wow, Feige's just building a whole freaking world here. Like, just how many films before that was that? Like 10 films before that even happened, and the Michael Douglas cuts there. So,
and I was upset that Wasp wasn't in the movie until they introduced her costume at the end, and then that got me excited for the sequel.
Yeah, that was a gripe of mine all throughout the movie, and then I said, I can trust you guys. I know this.
Right?
Now, are you surprised that was our highest rated film of the franchise?
No, because I don't think this film gets enough love for how good it actually is.
Thank you. Yes.
This movie is actually really good and really tight, and this was just a great job all around on this movie.
It was honestly because, you know, Tim and I talked, and we'll get to this in the second one, you know, but about the comedy relief. And in this one, Michael Pena, T.I., and I forget the other actor's name.
David something or other.
Yeah,
I always
Polka Dot
forget
Man.
it.
he's got a hard last name to remember, but he's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those are characters I didn't know I needed in a film until you
Yes.
had them in the film. Like
Yeah.
his recapping is hilarious and great,
Mhm.
and the delivery is incredible.
Yeah, it just was perfect all around. Where this is the only movie, I spent a lot of time talking to videos about like how I could have cut minutes out of these movies. This was the only one where I just sit back and like just take me wherever we're going.
And
I enjoy the
I-
shit out
And
of
I want an MCU series with just those three characters being fools.
Yeah. I think Michael Douglas as comedy relief goes very unnoticed.
Does
I
subtle.
I died laughing when he was breaking Scott out of jail, and he was like, no, like mount the thorax and stuff like that. And then and then Scott complains. He's like, get on the damn hand, Scott.
Oh,
He was
Michael,
very, very
Michael
underrated.
Douglas is great. He's a world class actor. He can deliver the lines subtly.
So we close out phase 2 with an average score of 7.625. So higher than our 6.25 from phase 1. I
And
think.
we also close out phase 2 with you and Tim locked in a 2-2 tie.
Oh, my man's keeping
Tim
score.
took phase 1, you took phase 2.
And now who will take our long ass phase 3? So we start with Captain America Civil War. Tim went 7.5, I went 7, average of 7.25. There was a lot to love in the fight scenes. There was a lot to love in the intros. We both thought the story was a bit convoluted. I'm going to let Tim talk about how his heart broke by not having enough of a certain character in the film.
Who are you talking about? I can't remember.
You're probably going to say Spider-Man wasn't in it enough, right?
No. Oh, yeah. Ross wasn't in it enough. Was that it? Is that who you're thinking of?
No, but it's okay.
No, just say it.
The Baron, man.
Now I look foolish. Oh yeah. I love my Zemo.
Yeah.
No,
He didn't give
I
us
thought
enough.
I thought he was in it just enough. I wanted to see the mask.
I did too.
But I think my biggest gripe is where it's in the directing. I feel like the Russos start to take a dip in the way they made this movie. Of course, I can't remember specific examples, but I just remember I wasn't a huge fan of how the story flowed with the pacing, and
It was very disjointed.
yeah, a little bit.
It felt like it would have actually served better and I think about this now watching
okay.
the Disney Plus shows. This seems like it would have been served better as a 6-episode series as opposed to trying to get all of this in a movie. Much like our Civil War comics were. It was just a lot going on all at once, and it really didn't make sense. My biggest gripe was all of a sudden Spider-Man's on a side for no fucking reason. T'Challa is too, and it's like, we're just going to blindly take sides here and let's fight this battle. And they had no stake in the game other than Spider-Man's like, oh, cool, I'm with Iron Man. And T'Challa really should have been on his own through all of it because they all wronged him and his father. So that part just really always bugged me about all of a sudden we're going to just blindly take sides because that's not who these characters are, but it fit the narrative for the movie. And that's always been my biggest gripe with it.
Yeah, my biggest thing actually wasn't the directing, so I'll retract that. It was with the editing and some of the camera work. Like the Lagos scene was way too shaky with the camera, almost to the point where I couldn't look at it. And there are just some weird cuts. Like my famous example that I love to cite is that like kick flip to a standing position that Black Widow does. Like either have her do it or don't like cut in the middle of it to make it seem like she did it. And then during the fight with Bucky when T'Challa got introduced, it cuts the Cap, getting ready to jump from the balcony the same way Bucky did, trying to escape, and it cuts to him for like literally 1 second before cutting back to Bucky or T'Challa, one of the two, and like don't split it up. It's like take that second to watch him wind back before he just jumps, and just very odd decisions with the editing.
Yeah, I agree there.
As for me, I'll give this one a good solid 8. And the reasons is the chemistry of the crew, right? You Sam and Bucky, this is their first time getting together, and their interactions are hilarious, especially in the car when they're traveling. And this is I get to I don't and I know the directing is a thing for you guys, but I think the scope and the vision of this movie would have been hard for any directors to tackle.
Oh yeah,
And it's one of those things where they just wanted to fit too much in one movie. And this was labeled a Captain America movie, but it was actually an Avengers movie.
Oh yeah,
This
absolutely.
was actually
Honestly.
an Avengers disassembled movie.
Honestly, it felt more like an Iron Man movie than a Cat movie.
Right. And this is where you kind of see the lessons that Tony's learned kind of go backwards, right? Because now he's got a God complex.
Mhm.
So I thought the
Yeah.
character kind of went back a little bit. And instead of working with the people he built the trust up with, he immediately sides with the government.
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought the God complex was a little shoved in there on this one. I thought the Captain America character stayed true to what they had developed with him. He was still the heart of the movie, which kept it a Cat movie for me. I like the double dealing of Natasha again being the Black Widow, and I still don't think they've made her threatening enough yet in any of the movies as what she could be.
Right.
So I'm still waiting for her to be as threatening as a Black Widow can be in this universe, right? Just the stone cold killer she can be when she has to.
Mhm.
I want to see her on one of those missions, and hopefully we get that in the Widow movie. Although I doubt that's going to happen. But I thought this did a great job of setting up Cap, Bucky, and Sam Wilson. And Sam Wilson is a character played so well. Like as soon as he's on screen, you're endeared to that dude. Anthony Mackie is great as him. And he's
Great.
one of those guys, he has instant charisma and screen presence as soon as he's there. I love the big fight scene. I didn't really have a problem with Peter Parker because at this point, I don't need the Uncle Ben retelling again. So it made sense that he would latch on to somebody as a father figure and kind of be going with him, especially someone that's giving him stuff and trying to lead him in a direction.
How about the banter between Tony and Aunt May?
Right. As a teenager, he may have latched onto that. And that's probably more of a problem with the MCU, that people have a problem with the Spider-Man in the MCU, is it kind of made Tony the Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
But so that kind of made sense to me. But overall, I thought it was good. The God complex with Tony got on my nerves in the movie. Yeah. And I liked the fight, but I did love the fight between him, Cap, and Bucky at the end. And you just saw, and it's the first time you really saw in a movie just how badass Tony can be in that armor. Like he was just whooping him, and you saw the evolution of him as a fighter in that armor too, in that scene. And when he took off Bucky's arm, you're like, oh, okay.
My biggest.
Go ahead, Dan.
It was just, I just thought it was good, but I'll agree. I mean, it did have some issues. And I thought the God complex of Tony was probably the biggest issue in it. But overall, I give it an 8.5.
Okay.
But I would say neither one of you gets the edge on this one either. I think you guys tie on this one. Both valid points.
My biggest gripe was I've waited almost my entire life to get T'Challa on the big screen, and I got him in a great fashion, and then they completely didn't honor who that character is.
And that's the other thing I forgot to mention. Great introduction of T'Challa. And one of the strong points of this was just Chadwick Boseman. He came on and commanded that presence and role. Like he instantly felt like a king as soon as he spoke. the way he walked, the way he was presented, the way he talked, he felt like royalty.
Mhm.
And if you had to go with CGI problems, I think the only problems that the MCU keeps having with CGI is with the Black Panther character.
Yeah. What, Sam,
Um,
you were trying to say something?
Yeah. Yeah. As much as I love the airplane fight, and this isn't necessarily a gripe per se, it's just hopeful or wishful thinking. I want to see more of those fights where you're viewing it as a spectator. You're not locked onto one character fighting another. You see all of them just going at it all at once because it gives you something. It gives your eye more to focus on. I loved seeing uh, Tony and Cap like interlock in that main clash, and then I rewound it like 4 or 5 times to watch each character behind them do their thing, and it was phenomenal. I loved it, and I'm not usually a person that rewinds to rewatch stuff in the moment, and I want more of that, and we just haven't really gotten it up until now.
And we can't close out talking about this movie without talking about, again, Scott Lang stealing the scenes he was in.
Right.
When he was big, it was hilarious. And when he got shrunk again, anyone got any bananas? Just
Now, orange slices.
orange slices, yes. Orange slices. He was gold in this movie.
Yeah.
And he elevated every scene he was in. Just
Thanks
when
for
he was
thinking.
like talking to Cap and completely starstruck, just
Yeah.
every time he was in it, he was stealing his scenes.
Thanks for thinking of me.
Yeah.
Paul Rudd is just such a great fit
Shaking
in
your
this
hand too.
universe.
Yeah.
So we have Gary going a little bit higher than us in Civil War there. And then we move into Doctor Strange. Tim went with a 7, I went with a 6, average of 6.5. I would have probably given this movie a 2 after the first time I saw it. So it definitely grew on me with this rewatch. My main critique isn't even a bad one. It's that Benedict Cumberbatch he's so good at playing the asshole that Stephen Strange is that I find it hard to watch the character. He's doing his job so well that I hate the movie. If that makes sense. And Dormammu is just absolutely awful, and we didn't get the villain we deserve. So yeah, Gary, where's the edge on this one?
I want to hear Tim first, and then I'll
So
talk.
the only main highlights I have for me, for myself, is obviously Benedict Cumberbatch nailed the character of Stephen Strange. But also, besides being obviously a visually gorgeous movie, whether you like this movie or not, there's no denying that it was incredible, especially with Tilda Swinton's voiceover while he's having his whole trip. Oh, like when she says like what is real in that like hauntingly calm tone, I I can't do it. It's well, I can do it. I want to keep doing it. It was just so good. But my main gripes for Doctor Strange are Mads Mikkelsen was absolutely wasted. I wanted it to be more of a cult, not just Caecilius running around with a bunch of like nameless henchmen. Especially ending up with 3 by the climax of the movie. I wanted it to feel like an actual cult. And in that sense, it definitely could have been darker. Oh, also one more positive, Tilda Swinton was by far the best part of this movie. People can complain about their whitewashing of the character, but she's my favorite character in the MCU, even though she's dead now. But yeah, and just most of the humor ended up falling flat, except with maybe Wong, because Benedict he's hilarious. And yeah, it was just kind of a boring premise.
All right. So what were your scores now?
Tim at 7, I went with 6.
Well, based on score alone, Tim's going to get the point.
God damn it.
Here's my take on this movie. One, I wanted Doctor Strange to be an ass because that's what he was. He
Yeah.
was the Tony Stark complex that had to learn his lesson, and you had to. And that car crash in the beginning is brutal.
I'm actually
And-
happy every time I see it because I hate that character so damn much. I cheer that car
right.
scene on.
But
Also-
I thought Benedict Cumberbatch was amazing as Doctor Strange. As soon as he
Yeah.
got it, and it wasn't the other guy who played the Joker, Joaquin Phoenix, I was happy.
Yeah.
I didn't want Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh,
Doctor
really?
Strange. I know he's a great actor, but I had wanted Cumberbatch from the beginning. I just thought he had the look, and I already knew he had the acting chops. Not that Joaquin doesn't, but I loved it because Doctor Strange also has that whimsical side.
Mhm.
And I don't think Joaquin probably would have played the whimsical as well as Cumberbatch did. And you need the balance of both. You need the ass that he is. You need the serious mystic that he is, the sorcerer that he is. And you also need the whimsical side where he can throw out one-liners here and there. I really, really like this movie a lot. I thought it was a great introduction to the character. My problem isn't with Cumberbatch at all. My issues are how are you going to get rid of his girlfriend? Because she's not really a character you're going to introduce Cleo. I wanted Cleo. Why not make put Cleo in the movie and develop her into the second movie? So as much as Rachel McAdams is a great actor, I didn't really care about her character at all. Because I wanted Cleo, you know? And that's just my personal preference. It doesn't mean anything beyond that. But so I thought her character was kind of like, although that astral fight scene was amazing. I thought it was a little too Inception-y with I wanted more, he's a sorcerer supreme of the, mystic arts. I wanted it more mystical.
Yeah.
I wanted more mysticism in it. And you got some of that when you were in cartoon Comertage, sorry. But I don't think anyone's mentioning one of the best things about this film is Chiwetel Ejiofor, who is a dynamite actor and absolutely doesn't get credit for knocking every role out of the park that he plays. Chiwetel Ejiofor is probably a premier actor that's not noticed as a premier actor. He should be A-list all day, every day, no matter what he's in. He is that.
He plays Mordo, right?
Huh?
He plays
He was
Mordo.
Mordred.
And he's who I call the wasted villain because I honestly think he could have been the villain of the film. And
Well,
I know they have to build to that, but
he is set.
I think they were setting him up well,
too.
And I get that, but I feel like they wasted his talents on this, and I think about that more now where we saw Chadwick Boseman, how many films before he got his own? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 films beforehand. So it's like, yeah, we set this up, but how much time do we really have for these people? So give him his take, in that film, build up to that instead of this fucking blob of Dormammu, which gets
I thought Dormammu was a waste because it had the same problem as Galactus in that Fantastic Four movie. It was basically a giant cloud. And I wanted to see Dormammu with the face on a body.
An actual Dormammu instead of this cookie monster talking star system. I
thought the time thing was a great, smart way for him to defeat him. So I thought that was clever. What I thought was weird was the sling rings.
Yeah.
So he should just be able to do that with his mystic cards. He shouldn't need a special ring to do it. He doesn't have a special ring in the comics. And I can understand putting that in the movie. What I did like was giving the cape a personality. I thought was kind of cool.
Mhm.
Like the cape with a personality I thought was great, and how it saved his ass a few times. And
yeah, very similar to the carpet from Aladdin. Same kind of personality too.
I felt like they really wasted Rachel McAdams. That was a big gripe I had too, because I think
and where team really gets the point on this one for me is I also thought Tilda Swinton was great as the Ancient One. And
so Tim has the edge at the moment.
And I also thought the supporting cast was strong. Wong was amazing and hilarious, and he was a great. He's everything you want a supporting character to be. One, he wasn't a joke of a character. his presence made made a difference whenever he was around. He was well written. He had good lines. He was capable. Tilda Swinton was had presence as the ancient one, and you would have thought most people would have been happy because they made her they made the ancient one a woman, which gave women representation, which I thought was good. If they would have, and there's no, they should have cast an Asian man, but I think if they would have done that, then people would have banged on it for being too kitschy of
Almost
it's
too
like you
PC.
couldn't make Wong like you couldn't have made Wong like he was in the original comic because it's too outdated a representation. It doesn't
Yeah.
it's not right, him being
Yeah.
the servant.
Yeah.
Wong, I really like that they made him just his own capable sorcerer, that he was in charge of his own stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been too much of a token role
Mhm.
to make to cast Wong as just this ancient Fu Manchu kind of guy that knows everything.
Yeah.
I had the same feeling about that, but I understand the perspective of we want representation. I totally get that, but with what they're going for and the changes from the comics that the MCU has made, and I'll talk about that when we get to like Black Panther and stuff, and even Shang-Chi, they're being very conscious of this stuff in a different manner.
Right. But I really did like Tilda in the role. I thought she was great. And I
Yeah.
loved when we saw her again in Endgame.
Yeah, that was one of the few things I liked in Endgame.
But I did think his journey was a little quick from not being a sorcerer to being a sorcerer.
Yeah.
That's also another big gripe that I had. That should have been fleshed out between like one or two movies. I felt like they just they
fast tracked it.
But it was the rush to get to Infinity War at that point, which as we cruise along.
That one scene that Tim was talking about was brilliant because it did catch him up, and you needed that scene where she just taps him and he's in this different plane.
Yeah.
To actually change his character's viewpoint. Because if they would have, because that was really clever, because I don't know if you could have changed his character's viewpoint as convincingly if he didn't have that scene, where he would automatically start believing in the stuff, because he's the ultimate skeptic who science was everything, right? Medicine and science. He had no magical, mystical stuff before that. So there needed to be something of that scale to change him that fast and get him start turning around.
So Tim gets the point on this one.
Yep, 3-2 edge.
And then we move on to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. We both really enjoyed it. Tim went 9.5, I went 8, average 8.5. I didn't enjoy this one as much as the first Guardians. I thought that they used the music as a crutch. I do like that they introduced the original Guardians lineup from the comics. I thought that was cool. Very nice nod. It just shows how much attention James Gunn pays to that stuff. I liked each character. I love the development of Rocket. There's something that's missing from this movie for me that was there in the first one. I couldn't put my finger on it. I didn't enjoy it as much. I thought it was much more chaotic. It wasn't as tight as the first one. Which made me enjoy it less. It was less of a journey and more of a hodgepodge is kind of how I think of it. But Tim actually really, really loved this movie. It was his tied as his highest ranked movie.
Oh, is that my cue? Is that my cue?
Yeah, go ahead.
There wasn't really anything that I didn't dislike. Didn't dislike. I loved most of this movie. Kurt Russell was incredible as Ego. I know it was a blending of two characters, but he just brought so much charisma to the role of Ego, and really fit the bill to Peter's father. And it was just great character building all around. I'm gonna have to disagree with Dan. I feel like this is the superior soundtrack with the perfect amount of integration into it. One of my favorite things that James Gunn did were the reprises, like the reprisal of Wham Bam Ching-a-Lang when the Sovereign did end up in the core and they first engaged the Guardians in that space, in that battle and inside Ego. And Baby Groot's overdone. But did I did enjoy the jokes that they did do with him. Mantis fit really well with the Guardians, and props to, I'm gonna butcher her name.
Clemente.
Yeah, that. And because she nailed the role. She was Mantis, and she was a really good pairing with Drax. Because their scenes were pretty cute. And just all around, the only thing that I can think of that I didn't like was some of the dialogue felt forced, and some of the jokes felt forced, especially in the beginning. It felt very awkward when Kurt Russell was talking to Peter's mom, calling her like tiger, my water lily and stuff like that behind the Dairy Queen. And then when you first get introduced to the Guardians, Peter's like, showtime, a-holes. And then there's just this like awkward pause where I can just picture James Gunn behind the camera going, he called them assholes. And that just didn't work for me. But that's really it. There wasn't anything else I didn't like about this movie.
All right, so I gotta say, you guys are tied up at 3. Dan gets the point on this one.
Yeah.
Now, and here's why. First of all, Palm Clementif was amazing as Mantis. Mm-hmm. And second of all, Tim, don't you ever say a bad word about Kurt Russell.
I didn't. I love Kurt Russell.
I know. No, I'm just picking on you. Kurt Russell is what really excited me about this movie. As you guys know, John Carpenter's a movie I watch. Well, maybe you don't know. I watch it 5-6 times a week. I love it. It's a perfect movie to me. Mm-hmm. But Kurt Russell's amazing. I like him no matter what I see him in. I think he's always great. I think he's one of those versatile actors who's never got enough credit for his versatility. He can play silly. He can play serious. He can play hard. He can play romantic. He can play the whole spectrum of acting. But as much as I love this movie too, but it does have some issues. I do love the chemistry between Drax and Mantis, but he's Drax the Destroyer, and he's second string comedic relief throughout the whole movie. When he doesn't destroy or defeat anything. He's the destroyer. You have this big hulking physical presence, and and his acting has been really good as him. I've really enjoyed him. I love the character, but he's Drax the Destroyer. And all of a sudden, he just doesn't care anymore. He's just comic relief in every scene he's in. Now, I thought they did a good job developing the self-loathing that Rocket has for himself and the feeling of not being worthy. And I thought they developed that really well. I also thought it was a bit convenient that Peter had this present from his mom with a whole new soundtrack that he had never opened in all his life. So that didn't really ring true to me. I thought that was really, really convenient plot device in there. Oh, look, I have this present I never opened from my mom for 35 years. But now's the time. So this one, I love the interaction. I really like the final end scene. I thought the fight at the end was great. I really liked the development of Gamora and Nebula's relationship. I thought was really strong.
Yeah.
And I thought both actresses played it great. And I really love Karen Gillan in this role. And her playing Nebula has really turned me into a fan of hers, as well as the board game Jumanji movies too. I think she's really good in. But again, Yondu was great in this movie too.
Yeah,
and I like seeing the other the original Guardians, and I like the send off. I like the breaking out scenes, but again, where this movie falls short is I think they tried to I thought Mandy was a great catchy song. The rest of the soundtrack, I couldn't tell you right now, but I could tell you a bunch of songs from the first one.
Mhm.
And but still, they didn't do all the characters as much service as they could have in this one. They
Yep.
really didn't give Drax much of a journey in this one. And to me, he's part of the key group. And you got to develop Drax as well as everybody else. You developed Rocket, you developed Peter, you developed Gamora and Nebula, you developed Rocket, and you go, well, Drax just make people laugh.
Yeah.
So, and that knocked it down. Otherwise, I love the movie.
Well, I kind of have to disagree there because that scene with Mantis and him on the steps, and with Mantis discovering just how much pain he's holding back because of the death of his wife and daughter, is pretty heavy stuff.
It was.
But she discovered that about him, and then it went nowhere.
But he never fought. He never, even when the big battle was happening, it was him just protecting her and running away.
Mhm.
He's one of the people, if there's a fight going on, he's got to be in it. He's the destroyer. And,
Yeah.
and Batista was great as Drax in this movie. All the lines that they gave him, he knocked out of the park. I just thought they made him a little too funny.
Not as meaningful.
Because they gave him that one scene where he's remembering his pain, but I think that pain still has to be a presence in all of Drax's actions. They set it up so strong in the first movie. It's just not going to be secondhand in the second one. He's going to live with that pain forever.
Yeah.
Thanos is still alive, so he's not. It's not like that pain's gone. It's not like his wife and child have been avenged. And but that's where this movie gets knocked for me. Just the development of Drax. Everything else was great. Especially what was the one joke was killing me. What they call him?
Taserface.
Taserface, yes.
Yeah.
That I thought was brilliant. But the space pirate send off at the end, I thought was great with Yondu's character. But again, they needed to develop Drax more. So Dan, you get the point. 3-3, gents.
So we roll into Spider-Man Homecoming. Tim and I tied. Tim surprisingly went 7.5 on this one, and I went 9. I actually the rankings were flipped on this one from what I thought they'd be. So it averaged 8.25. I love Michael Keaton. I love the intro of Spider-Man that we got here, again, without an origin story that we didn't need to begin with. Marissa Tomei kills it for me. The Ned arc, the kids in high school, they actually let him be in high school and do high school crap while being Spidey. I loved it overall. And Tim, I actually forgot your critiques for this one.
Well, I feel like they spent a little bit too much time in the high school setting. It's cool that they tried to balance it, but I feel like the scales just got tipped to high school a little too far. It was way too long. I wouldn't want to cut out the Washington scene, the Washington Monument scene, but I feel like that's where I would cut it if I had to. It just gets so dull, especially around that time. Where he gets stuck in the little vault there, through the Washington scene, and I mean, I agree with Dan on most things. Like, Michael Keaton, just you can't say anything bad about him because he is Vulture. The Iron Man scenes were great. I love seeing Tony again, especially in this father-like capacity. But my biggest thing after watching this as a whole, it just makes me yearn for another season Spidey. Just like, I feel like I'm just kind of over this this still new, still learning the web ropes kind of thing. And I mean, I'm glad we're getting a different take of it. I'm glad all three, between McGuire, Garfield, and Holland, we've gotten three totally different Spider-Man. But yeah, watching this, it just making me crave Toby again. I miss that, like, college student, not so much high school. Like, it'd be perfect if there was a way that we could
You
meld.
miss emo Peter.
Oh,
Yes.
Fuck emo Peter.
Emo Peter and that wink from James Franco. I love his wink. But yeah, overall it's just okay for me. But shout out to Jennifer Connelly doing the voice of Karen. She was great.
Jennifer Connelly's amazing.
Yeah.
And so, is this the last one we're reviewing?
No,
No.
we
No,
have.
we had, yeah.
All right. No. Okay. Good. So, if it was, I was going to save who gets the point to the end, but for this one, point's going to go to Dan. So Dan just took the lead for the first time, 4-3. Now, having said that, there's points I agree with Tim on.
Yeah.
One, I'm going to rate this on the movie we have, not the movie I wanted to get.
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to base it off the movie we have. The movie we have, I love. But like Tim, I want a grown-up Peter now at this point. I want him being a professor teaching and having to balance his day job with being Spider-Man and being married to MJ. Now, having said that, since it's not the Peter we got high school Peter. I thought this was the most accurate representation of the Peter Parker personality in high school that we've gotten so far. I thought Tom Holland absolutely nailed it. The awkwardness of being Peter, the awkwardness of learning your powers. I thought Marissa Tomei was great as Aunt May. And I also thought the surprise for me was Zendaya, who I wasn't a Disney person, so I'd never seen her act before. I thought she was great in the movie, and I thought her and Tom Holland had great chemistry. And I actually wanted to see those two end up in a relationship together. The way they were acting, I really liked their chemistry. Probably a great reveal when he showed up to take her to prom, and Michael Keaton's her dad.
That was so
probably
great.
One of the best reveals in an MCU movie. And what really worked for me in this movie is not the same copycat villain.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Vulture, and not only did you get Vulture, you got Vulture with a purpose. You could understand where he's coming from. That beginning setup scene where his business is just completely murdered by the government, and they're not doing anything wrong. They're just there doing their job. And the government and Tony Stark's place, although they have a valid thing for what they're doing, completely undermines them. So there was really no wrong side there. But what they did great was creating a villain you could understand.
That's how you do it.
Until, of course, he got ruthless and went too far. But you could understand his motivations for getting there. Now, he had a psychotic break, and again, another kind of brutal scene when he kills the guy in his crew, right?
Well, he did that on accident. He thought that was the anti-gravity gun.
Yeah, but still, it was like a surprising kind of brutal death. And there wasn't really a lot of remorse there on his part. Even if he accidentally did it, you think he'd be more shocked, but he didn't really.
I think that this was really the first time that we saw that the actions of the Avengers have consequences. Sure, we had Civil War, but that really just kind of touched on it and was for the premise of the movie, not the premise of the franchise. So seeing the aftermath of everything we've seen thus far, it was just a nice icing on the cake, I guess, from everything we'd seen. And from what I view as often lazy.
And I like I like that scene they gave you with Peter too, like that classic cover where he's buried under the rubble.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it really set up that line that Tony gave him earlier in the film. Well, if you're nothing with the suit, you don't deserve the suit.
Right.
You know, the suit's there for him to use as a tool. It's not supposed to make him the hero. He's the hero.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought they did a great construction of the Peter Parker character. becoming the hero and coming into the understanding of who he really is and what his purpose is going to be as the hero.
Yep.
And even at the end, I thought that was one of our better fight scenes with him and the Vulture too. And the Vulture scenes just looked amazing. I thought it was clever the way the Vulture stole the plane. And again, you got Happy Hogan just stealing scenes he's in the movie.
He's probably one of my favorite parts of the MCU.
Right. But I really enjoyed this movie. And I love the end scene. I love with they didn't beleaguer Aunt May being so stupid she's always going to be in the dark, right?
Oh yeah.
They just get right to it. Holy, what the and then they cut.
That's great.
But this really worked for me. Tom Holland's great. But like you, Tim, at some point I want an adult Peter doing adult things and being the adult hero, married to MJ, and those two being the team that they are in the comics together.
Yeah.
Yes. Circling back to Vulture real quick, I didn't know how I felt about the way his wings were designed in this movie, because we're so used to the comics where it's literally just like a few feet past his normal wingspan of his arms, not his actual wings. And to see these big, like, monstrous things on his back, I wasn't sure how I felt about it, but I love them.
It looked amazing, and it actually gave some credibility to the Chitauri, because they didn't get any in the Avengers. This actually, the tech they left behind actually gave some credibility to the aliens.
Yeah, especially when they were fighting on the ferry, and he just took his webs and like snipped them with his feathers. That was great. Yeah, I just really, really enjoyed it. And then like the stabbing motions he was making while he was being, pushed by the air current on the top of the plane.
Right.
It just gave such a scale to him, and it was phenomenal. And that actually was one of the reasons why he came off so intimidating.
And of course, they're setting up Max Gargan, so hopefully we'll see Scorpion.
Yeah,
here's hoping. So I'm gonna take my 4-3 lead into Thor Ragnarok here.
You had to rub that in.
Yeah.
Tim, I'm as surprised as you are. I have Dan in the lead right now.
Before we start Ragnarok, can I make a prediction? I feel like Dan's gonna take this because I have such unpopular opinions about these last couple movies that I think Dan's gonna take it.
So you're trying to jinx. We'll see. All right, we'll see what happens with Mr. Jinx here.
Reverse psychology.
Ragnarok, we're both a fan of. Tim went 8.5. I went 8. Average of 8.25. I honestly, I went an 8 simply because it went a little bit too buddy comedy to the point where, though I love the development of Thor, we kind of lost Thor at the same time. I think Hulk was a bit overdone as well. Love Tessa Thompson. She should be in every movie I ever watch. The soundtrack's great. Jeff Goldblum, I wish he was my roommate. So great movie in my opinion, honestly. Taika Waititi knocked it out of the park. I started getting stricter about my rankings at this point because of where we had already been and where we were going. So that's also part of the play. Tim, your little synopsis?
Yeah. I don't know if it was just the Marvel fatigue, but just I wasn't feeling this movie as much for this viewing. And there's a lot of stuff I appreciated about it. Unfortunately, I'm just indifferent to Tessa Thompson. She's all right. I don't like her costume.
Take that back.
No, you can't make me Mr. 4-3 lead. Yeah, it was good. I agree to what people say that they shouldn't have spoiled the Hulk being in it. I know that line about being a friend from work that was suggested to Taika from a kid in the hospital, apparently. So it, I guess there's a kid who was in the hospital who somehow suggested that line, and they ended up putting it in there. But yeah, that just took away all the all the shock value out of it. So, but yeah, in the end, I thought Kate Blanchett was perfect as Hela, despite her being a little stiff in a couple of lines of delivery. But overall, I think it was a pretty, pretty very decent movie.
Gary, who takes this one?
I think Tim's going to edge you out on this one. We're going to tie it up.
That bastard. Not really.
Because I also think, and I love Chris Hemsworth as Thor, and I want him to keep being Thor. But at the same time, when you keep making him bro Thor, every time you do that, you take a little bit away from his regal godliness. He's supposed to be a god. And they do good spots in this movie of him being a god, like that fight when he just comes in and wrecks house at the end is great. But every time he's too broy, you kind of take away and I know that works for most people because they just want comedy all the time. But I want Thor to be this omnipotent, godly presence, like he is. Wherever Thor goes, he should have the same presence as T'Challa. He should reek of royalty, and not snob royalty, for the people royalty.
Yeah,
just like T'Challa's for his nation, he should be for Asgard. And you take away those moments of him being for Asgard when you interject the bro comedy.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And not that he can't pull it off. The parts where him and Hulk are great. I really liked seeing more Mark Ruffalo in the Hulk. But also everyone's like, oh, we finally got World War Hulk. Well, you didn't get World War Hulk. You got him in a World War Hulk outfit, but you didn't get that storyline or the gravity of it either. You didn't get the consequences. You didn't get the gravity of the World War Hulk storyline. You got it kind of shoehorned in to make a few people happy. I thought everyone was great. I liked Tessa Thompson a lot. I didn't think she was the end all be all though either. But I have no problems with Tessa Thompson at all. I think her and the cast had great chemistry, so I have no problems with her.
Gary, what did you think of a more articulated Hulk versus just this grunting beast?
I like a smart Hulk. I like the Mr. Fix-It Hulk. I like a Hulk with a brain, because to me that's the most dangerous Hulk. That's what makes the Maestro so dangerous. When in that timeline when he's the Maestro, he has all the power, unstoppable, all-growing power of the Hulk, with Bruce Banner's brain behind it. What could be more threatening?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but again, as much fun as it was to see those two in the arena together, it just felt thrown together. That part kind of felt thrown together for a spectacle. I did like them escaping. One of the strong parts of this movie for me was Kate Blanchett. I thought every time she was on screen as Hela, I was paying attention. She was great. She had presence, and she's another one of those actresses. No matter what she's in, she commands it. Her ability as an actress is absolutely amazing, and I haven't seen anything I've seen her in where I didn't think her acting was A+.
Oh, she's fantastic.
But again, I really like Thor Ragnarok a lot, but again, a little bit too much bro comedy. I think it takes away from the regalness of Thor.
So point to Tim. We move on to the Black Panther, my guy T'Challa, Chadwick. No surprise to anybody who's ever met me, heard of me, or seen anything I've ever put out. I gave him 5. I love Ryan Coogler. I love his vision in his movies. I know that there was some knocks on the CGI, but if you've read Black Panther comics, the CGI actually really matched the visuals from the comics very well, from the astral plane to the fight scenes where it's a bit choppy. That actually is reminiscent of the cartoon that got scratched by BET way too early, but also of a lot of the comic books. Like the
Sounds like excuses to me.
What's that?
Sounds like excuses to me.
Well, no, I And I get that, I had a lot of people say that, and then I showed people like the books I was referencing in the cartoons. They're like, oh, okay, like it's Ryan Coogler did his homework on a lot of it. I love Michael B. Jordan as an actor, but I also heard the critiques of his acting in the film. It does fall a bit flat in some areas. I think Claw was a wasted character. I really think that he could have and should have been developed much more. And Killmonger maybe even could have waited until Black Panther 2. I'm glad he didn't, because I love that we had both of them on screen knowing what we know now. I love the writing. I love the fact that they showed Wakanda for what Wakanda is. The science part of it, the royalty part of it. I love the humor in it. The Dar Milaje is just so badass, and we got to see him on the screen. I geeked out over this because I've been waiting since I was a kid to see this on screen. I actually wish they kind of started in the jungle action realm, but they, in some ways they did. I'm glad that we got M'Baku instead of Manape, so it shows they're being cognizant of the times, because Manape is so fucking wrong on so many levels. So they got that right, and that's what I was kind of referring to earlier when you mentioned those things. I love it, and my biggest gripe with it is that the soundtrack is one of the best soundtracks we've had from any movie, not just the MCU. Just Kendrick Lamar put together an amazing piece, and it was teased, and the only song we heard was in the credit scene with SZA and Kendrick. So it bugs the shit out of me, but fantastic movie in my opinion, and I probably rate it way too high. I admittedly rate it way too high. Tim gave it an 8. I gave it a 9.5. I know Tim's going to get the win on this one too, but average score 8.75.
So with me, I agree with a lot of the stuff that Dan said, but my biggest gripe has been and will always be Killmonger. His dialogue is like super cringy. Like I respect the character. It's the plot's a tale as old as time about trying to earn your keep and win the throne. But yeah, he just didn't come off intimidating to me. Killmonger didn't. It was a really cool shot of him once they burned all the purple flowers. Just him standing against the light of the fire in that like shrine area. That was great. I thought Claw was incredibly underused. I didn't like how comedic he was. It's cool that Andy Serkis was comedic with him, but like when he started talking about like his mixtape and all that to Ross, that did it for me. It was too much. But that's really where my gripes end. A lot of people were complaining that T'Challa was very dull in this compared to the people around him. I thought he shined because of that. Each character around him has such a unique personality that it just accentuated how cool and collected T'Challa is, and that in itself allows him to shine just as much as the rest of the cast, if that makes any kind of sense. But yeah, love Shuri, love Okoye. There's them in the South Korea scene was phenomenal. They were hilarious, driving the car, Okoye wearing the wig and the dress. But yeah, Killmonger will always be an issue for me. I liked his look. Michael B. Jordan definitely looked the part, but I just couldn't take him seriously as a villain.
All right. Oh, did we lose Dan? There he is.
Nope, he's here.
So, point to Tim.
I apologize. I am parenting at the moment as well. God damn it, Tim.
Now I look foolish.
So that's what 5-4 Tim right now, and here's why. I have the same problems with this movie Tim does. Michael B. Jordan's a great actor. I liked him as the Human Torch in that god-awful Fantastic Four movie. I thought he was a great Johnny Storm in it. Mm-hmm. Killmonger, everyone says, oh, the writing for this villain is so good in this movie. I think people are saying that because of the actor who's playing him. not because it's actually good writing for Killmonger. Again, copycat villain syndrome. And and just another, like Obadiah Stane, like the guy in Ant-Man, like Tim Roth. Everyone deserves it over the other one, and that's their credo, right? I deserve this. It should be mine. Um, you can't be a king without empathy. His character has no empathy. You can't be a king without feeling for your people, without recognizing the struggle of your nation. And his whole thing was just about power because he's never had it. That's boring to me. Because it's what they do with almost all villains in all movies. I don't have power, I want it. And those villains don't. Again, though, Shuri was great. And if you guys never saw, I can't remember her name right now. She was in a fantastic episode of Black Mask where she was great in that too. Not Black Mask, Black Mirror. Yeah. And she was great in that. So I'm kind of excited to see more of her in the MCU too. And love the actress playing Okoye. And the girl that was going to be, the woman that was going to be his bride. I'm blanking. What was her character's name?
Nakia.
Yeah, Nakia. I thought she was fantastic too. I really liked her introduction. I really like the capabilities of the Dora Milaje, how they are just this deadly class of warriors and their fighting skill is unmatched. Every time the Dora Milaje were present, I thought the film was elevated. And I also agree with you, Tim, about Chadwick Boseman. There was nothing boring about him in this movie. Every time he was on screen, I felt the regalness of the T'Challa character. I felt the kingliness of T'Challa. And I think there's a presence there that Chadwick Boseman brought to this character that it's going to be really hard if someone else ever plays him to recapture it, because he played this king with what appeared to be an effortless grace. And I don't think that's going to be easy for anyone else to duplicate. So I thought he was the strongest part of the movie to me, as he should have been. Every scene he was in, I thought he was great. His interaction with his sister, his interaction with the Dora Milaje, I thought all hit on all cylinders. I thought the fight at the end was weak sauce. The CGI was probably the worst we'd seen in the MCU since the first movies of the MCU. It looked cobbled together, like they ran out of budget as soon as they got to this. It looked like two cartoon characters fighting when they were falling. And it didn't do either of the actors any justice. And it took you out of the moment of the fight, and it took you out of the stakes of the fight. They got it back at the end when him and T'Challa were talking, and you see the grace of the king being empathetic with someone that's sitting there with him, the respect he gives somebody that's even his enemy. And all these things I think are undermined in this movie. People are missing the point of how good Chadwick Boseman was in this movie. I really think he was exceptional. And I really think the Killmonger villain, because of Michael B. Jordan and being a good actor that he is, but people gave the Killmonger character too much credit. Because in this movie, they just made him too heartless and too ruthless. And you weren't supposed to want him to be king, but you didn't care about his journey to be king. At least I didn't. And nothing he did felt earned. And I also agree that they killed Claw way too quick. That's someone that could have been, he didn't have to kill Claw. He could have incapacitated him. He had the power.
Right.
And I don't know. That's my take on it. Dan, I know Dan wants to tell me why I'm wrong on it, so I'll let Dan talk to me again.
No, I really can't. I can't tell you why you're wrong on it. I've heard the critiques, and I definitely hear and see them. I think it's one of those things where, for me, I just waited so long to see it that no matter what, I don't think I was going to be let down. And
I can understand that.
I'm just able to. I just appreciate so much about it, especially with the blending of. I don't know if people realize, but this film blended so many different storylines. I mean, we had our jungle action, we had our Black Panther, we had our Dora Milaje. there were so many storylines from so many different writers that were jam packed into this movie to make it what it was, and so I think
Oh,
that's
and I didn't even mention Wakanda. What a
yeah.
great representation. It felt like a real lived in place.
And
Yeah.
I think the royalty aspect of it shows. I mean, the MCU doesn't exist without Wakanda. Wakanda vibranium powers everything, you know. So it's I think
And
that's
I
a great
thought the
representation.
blossoming flower thing was a little, all right, so we'll
Yeah.
just take out all the flowers and no one has power. I'm like,
I did really enjoy the final fight because one of the feelings that rushes over me every time I get to that part is you see this amazingly technologically advanced city, and you think of it as like a utopia, and then you look down and there's a civil war happening. um, and I love the rhinos. The rhinos were a really really nice touch, and it just reminds you that you're still in Africa.
Yeah,
So I really enjoyed that.
there's a lot of attention to detail and stuff there. I think there was so much hype around it, you know, being the cultural movement that it was, that folks, you know, regardless of how you're viewing it, um, if you'd read the comics, there's a lot to appreciate there in terms of everything that's meshed together. I think that's what I appreciate the most because I'm one of the few who have read, been reading all of those, you know, forever. So I know we all have our movie, and so that was just it for me, just because of me finally seeing it all unravel in front
and
of
there's
me.
nothing wrong with that, right? We all have our things we like despite whatever flaw it may have.
This is that one movie where I can see every point, and I'm still but, and I know I'm wrong. It's just not gonna be wrong to me. But Tim's got the points, and we are closing in on our last 5 films. We come to Avengers: Infinity War. Tim went 7. I went 4 for an average score of 5.5. I thought this movie was absolutely lazy, and it felt like it was done by the interns while the first team worked on Endgame. Very disjointed. The character representation wasn't there. Awful story, to be honest. And we went through all of this to get to Thanos, and for what? So that was me. Tim enjoyed it a lot more than I did.
Excuse me. Yeah, I guess. Now, I mentioned before that we'd have a lot in common and possibly agree with more. Excuse me. I feel like the Black Order is another group of characters where being introduced and killed off in the same movie, just there's no excuse for it. Excuse me. Yeah, they got the shaft hard on this, and they were honestly the part that I was looking forward to the most going into this movie. And so I definitely walked out severely disappointed. I agree with Dan in the fact that it was incredibly jarringly quick cuts to other characters with little to no smooth transitions. And but I will agree, Tony, Star-Lord, uh, Gamora, Nebula, so many characters got really good, even if slight character development. Um, so I appreciated that. And I just love the fact that, Thanos isn't out to fight anyone in this. He's just fighting because these people are getting in his way.
He's
And
burning with glorious purpose.
yeah, yeah. I have to say one of the biggest gripes for me for this movie is Bruce Banner. This is where he hit rock bottom in his portrayal. I can't stand Mark Ruffalo in this movie. Maybe the 15 seconds that we saw him as the Hulk, but he's just very annoying comic relief, if you can even call him that.
Yeah.
I just groaned every time he was on screen because he's not a scientist anymore. He's just bumbling exposition, and he sounds like a stoner, especially in that scene where he's piloting the Hulkbuster. And I just didn't want anything to do with it. Past that, I enjoyed it. The Guardians were fantastic. They were actually some of the highlights of this movie. Star Lord especially. I loved, even though it turned the tide for the Avengers. I loved his little outburst on Thanos there. It definitely just another example of his flawed human character, and showing how emotions get in the way. But yeah, that's really about it for me. Not one that I wouldn't be my first choice to revisit if I wanted to watch a Marvel movie, but I didn't hate it.
So this is where Gary says Dan gets the points.
I'm going to give you guys a tie on this one.
Ah,
I like this movie. Having said that, this isn't one of the movies I remember the most, and I really liked Gamora in this movie a lot. I thought she was great. Zoe Saldana. I thought was great.
Yeah,
Like you said, I thought the Guardians were a strong part of it. I also thought Peter Parker and Iron Man were really strong.
yeah,
I think we could have got more Hawkeye, more Widow, and overall, I did like the portrayal of Thanos. He's not out to be the bad guy, and he's actually where that glorious purpose comes in. He truly believes in his mission and that he's saving the galaxy.
and that's the most dangerous villain of all, and
Exactly.
the most exciting or interesting, rather.
I did like Gamora's sacrifice. That whole scene between her and him, you knew it was coming, but it still had impact.
Yeah.
I thought it was really good. Probably my favorite part of the whole movie was Doctor Strange. Loved when he did this. You saw the arms come out. It
Yeah,
was like the representation of Doctor Strange I wanted to see. He was smart, he was comfortable in his power set, and he knew what he was doing. And like Doctor Strange in the comics, he was willing to sacrifice himself for what he knew was going to be the greater purpose.
yeah, right.
So he was actually one of my favorite parts.
How did you feel about the Black Order?
The Black Order, they weren't characters I really knew a lot about, so they really didn't mean much to me. And the movie didn't make them mean anything more to me. So that's probably a bad point for you. But like I said, the Doctor Strange, I really loved. I really, really liked his representation. I really liked Spider-Man and Tony working together. But having said that, it's also not the most memorable movie. So I'll kind of skew with you guys on this one. A big fun
All right, so
event
we got a
movie, but beyond seeing it in the theater, it's not one I've watched a whole lot more at home.
Yeah.
So we've got a tie moving into our final four here of Ant-Man and the Wasp. 2.5, I went 6, average of 5.5. We both thought it leaned on humor way too much. The story wasn't really fleshed out, and it really didn't feel like it mattered in the grand scheme of things. Were we wrong, Gary?
What's that? You froze for a second on
Were
my
we
side.
wrong? Oh, my apologies. So we thought that it relied on humor far too much. The story wasn't really there. Didn't really push anything forward. And the Michael Pena character, as opposed to comedic relief, was actually kind of wasted on here. And it didn't progress things along very much in terms of the storyline or the MCU.
And that was both your thoughts too, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, essentially.
We're actually very similar on this.
I hate to tell you guys you're wrong, but you're wrong. I thought this was great because it furthered the Scott Lang character and his relationship with his daughter. And I love seeing them in the house together. I like that. It also furthered the character of Hank Pym. And then obviously you got Janet Van Dyne and you got to see her. I like the growing relationship and the capabilities of the Wasp character. I really enjoy it. And how she was always a more capable fighter than him, as they portrayed in the first movie. And that hasn't changed in the second movie.
Yeah, one thing we also
I love the giant Pez. I still love the sight gags of big, small. Still made me laugh.
The CGI is great.
one thing we also agree on is that Ghost was absolutely wasted in this movie. Absolutely.
Throwaway
I
character.
love that actress, Hannah John Kamen. I think she's
Mhm.
spectacular.
She's
Also,
great.
she had a great Black Mirror episode too. And on a side note, I think she's a great casting choice for Red Sonja. Because she got cast as Red Sonja in the movie.
yeah.
And a lot of people are mad about it. I don't understand it. She's got the exotic look. Not only does she have the look, she has the acting chops, and she can do her own action scenes because she does a lot of her own
Yeah,
stuff.
she's fantastic.
But we're not talking about that, so I'm not going to get back to this.
So
I liked her. I was a little thrown off by the Goliath character because I know I wanted more out of him. We didn't get to see him as Goliath at all. And
yeah, I was interested in that, but I mean, had they thrown in one more character like that, how many more would have been wasted? You know, it's
right.
the premise of Ghost would have been awesome. You know, they just wasted a great opportunity with a great actress.
And I like the things where he was big. I like the gag at the end with the giant cost. I liked how they were like trying to save his life. I liked the way they found her mom. I thought was great in the Quantum Verse. And I thought the Quantum Verse actually felt like it had some stakes to it. So it was nice. And I like that journey. And I thought this is setting up more in the MCU than we know. And I know people have problems in Endgame with it being the rat affecting the probability and saving
Right.
and putting everything in motion to save everything. But I also think it's like normal everyday probabilities that you can't predict that affect a lot of things that happen in real life.
Right.
But I actually liked it. I liked the science. I thought Ghost might have been a little too villainy. I know they're trying to play her as her condition was breaking down her psyche, making her more villainous. But I thought her hero turn at the end went a little too quick.
Yeah.
But overall, I would give this one an 8. And I still like the supporting cast, and I still thought they were funny in their van and all their ramblings about. And I love the shrinking of the van, and I thought the action scenes were just as clever in this one as they were in the first one. So this was still another strong outing for me, and I thought the mid-credit scene was probably one of the stronger ones in the MCU films.
That part was enjoyable. So Tim and I got that wrong. We move into our last three. Captain Marvel, which I know is dear to Gary's heart. 6.5 from Tim, 6 from me, 6.25 average. I thought it was trash. Worst villains we've had. At first, when I first saw it, I thought Brie Larson was just terrible for the role, even though I liked Brie Larson a lot as an actress. Turns out the writing was just awful for her. We both thought the writing was pretty damn bad for this movie. And
even Sam Jackson was not great in this movie.
Yeah, it was just a waste of an entrance.
The only part that I enjoyed that I thought was really nice and creative was the scene where she got abducted by the Skrulls and they were going through her memories with the voiceovers of Talos and the other Skrulls. I thought that was actually pretty cute and pretty funny too.
And I enjoyed the music. Tim did not.
What? I didn't say anything about the music.
The Just the Girl scene where she's fighting and Just the Girl plays.
Just the Girl scene you talked about in your review. The Just the Girl song.
I absolutely love that scene. Tim thought it was a big cliche.
Just that one. No, it's just that one song. I thought that was the song that just kind of like made me say, okay, I get it. I like your message, but it was just a bit too much with the song.
See, the song didn't bother me. I thought it was ham-fisted with the stereotypical biker dude. Like every biker dude's a meathead.
Yeah.
So Dan, this is my movie. This is my Black Panther, a character I've always loved, and regardless of everything they got wrong with it, I still like it, even though there's so much I shouldn't like about it. you both get a pass on this one. Because everything you guys said is absolutely true, and I still like it despite it. Having said that, this isn't the Captain Marvel movie I wanted. I wanted Captain Marvel to go through her stages of being Captain Marvel. I wanted to see her origin story not start in space. I wanted to see her getting her trials and tribulations in her position, triumphing on her own before she even got her powers.
Right.
I wanted to see that. I wanted to see the Miss Marvel years, kind of. Then I wanted to see Captain Marvel. I wanted to see the evolution of this character. And this is a movie where they just sped that along at a lightning fast pace. And anyone who reads the comics knows what a great character the Carol Danvers character is.
Yep.
And unfortunately, like her comic for the last 2 years has been amazing. Tons of first appearances, tight writing, great, just great tight storytelling by Kelly Thompson. And so many people aren't reading it because of this movie. And this movie, I think, hurt the comics more than it deserves to. I also agree with you. I think Brie Larson's a great actress, but I thought the direction in this movie was an issue. Jude Law was just an unlikable schmuck, and I know he was supposed to be, but he's one of those actors that's a next level actor, and it just
he didn't want to be there.
And as much as I can keep watching this movie, I still see the problems when I do watch the movie. I'm not blind to them, and
I feel the same way. I know there's no DC talking on this channel, but the way you feel about Captain Marvel is how I feel about Aquaman. Aquaman's my main guy, but yeah, his movie did have flaws. So I totally feel for you on where we stand.
Right? Yeah, and both those movies made over $1 billion.
Yeah.
And again, and I thought too, where you guys are talking about the writing, where Marvel does a good job of putting good positive messages in their movie without being ham-fisted. I thought this one ham-fisted mostly everything. It wasn't smooth. I thought some of the strongest points were the acting with Sam and Brie together. They did great. And with her and the Rambos, I thought was really good. I thought, what's the guy's name who played the lead Skrull? He's a great actor.
Oh, I can't remember his name.
I can't think.
Well, I thought he was really good as Talos, right? I thought he was great.
Yeah.
But I thought the whole team was that she was fighting with in the beginning from the Krees was a waste.
Yeah.
And as much as I love seeing her powered up, you just knew she was going to run through everybody. And I had a lot of fun with it, but I could see how that would just, it's another end fight with no real drama to it.
That was Ben Mendelsohn played him.
Yes, he's fantastic. And he brought a lot of charisma to that character. And again, the supporting cast I thought was really strong, although some of them were wasted, just like the woman who played Minerva. I'm glad she's going to be in the Eternals because they wasted that Minerva character.
Yeah.
She was just a throwaway bad guy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also that's all we got of Maria. We're done with Maria Rambeau now. It's just
but she was really good.
She was solid. She was great, and now she's gone.
And I loved when she was scared to go in space, and then she just killed it. Yeah. But I think they were so worried about putting a strong female character on screen that they just overpowered her from the start instead of writing power to her.
You're right. You're spot on there. And so Tim and I were wrong. We can accept that one.
Just one more comment. I need to comment on the costume. I'm all for doing these updated looks to all these costumes, but come on, just give me the sash. I feel like the sash on her waist pulls her look together, and
She always has had a sash, no matter
Yeah.
what. No matter what costume, there's a sash.
yeah,
It's her flair.
I missed it so.
Just like Office Space, you got to have your flair. That's her flair.
Yeah. So we are heading into our end game here. 2 films left. Endgame, Far From Home. In Endgame, Tim gave it a 9.5 for one of his highest reviews. I gave it an 8.75 overall. I thought it was very disjointed. This is what we built up to, and Thanos is going to sit on a rock and have somebody do his bidding for him when it's already failed. Wakanda didn't get the love it showed the strength that they showed they had, moving forward. In the other films, I know that the funeral scene outweighs everything, the deaths, the Cap stuff. I know that those moments are there, but as a long ass damn movie, there was a lot that could have been cut. For me, it failed epically in terms of finality for what we built to, in terms of introducing the next step, and really just the heart of these characters wasn't there despite the death scenes. It fell flat for me in a lot of ways. Nate was generous, but I appreciate what they built to, and I love the scene with all the women coming together and everything. Tim absolutely loves the movie.
I do. I really do. It'd be easier for me to tell you just what I didn't like about the movie. And that really just comes down to 2014 Thanos and Nebula. They were just kind of dull. And that's it. And God, there's just so many thoughts about the movie just running through my head right now. I'll spare you, but just everything else I loved the time travel scenes to Morag, New York. I love seeing the ancient one again. I loved the scene where they went back to the 70s. That scene with Tony meeting his dad was just phenomenal and one of my favorite heartfelt moments in the movie. And the end scene, that final battle, you just can't beat it. Yeah, granted, my Black Order still got done dirty, but you can't beat it. It'll forever give me chills.
So Gary, we're pretty far off on this one. Who gets it?
So going into this one, Tim was ahead 5-4. It's tied up 5-5 now. And I like this movie, but it's also a movie of many conveniences. I liked it a lot. I like the characters. I thought Black Widow was mostly wasted in this, except for her sacrifice. And, ScarJo's just so good as her. I wanted to see more. I thought Ronan was just one of those. They put him in the Ronan costume just to try to give it weight, but you never saw his journey to Ronan. You got the scene in the beginning where his family gets dusted, and then he's just Ronan. But you wanted to see the de-evolution of him turning into him, the slow breakdown until he's there, because he's not just gonna go out and that's it. I'm Ronan now. My family died. He's gonna keep breaking down mentally until he's that guy, and you didn't get to see any of that. He's just super badass Hawkeye with some swords, and I'm all about that Hawkeye, but I wanted to see the journey to it. Probably could have gave a film of him doing that. So I thought that was quick. I love the final battle scene. I love when Captain Marvel comes in and starts kicking butt. But my favorite was Scarlet Witch. I didn't feel any other character's pain as much as I felt her pain in this movie. Mm-hmm. You really felt, and that's just Elizabeth Olsen knocking it out of the park. You felt her pain. And the other characters, I was really happy to see them back, and I thought the emotions played well when they came back, especially with Tony and Peter and Cap and Sam and Doctor Strange had everybody ready, but they just all appear battle ready. Right. Which I thought, you kind of need to do that. I understand that, but it was definitely convenient. Everybody comes out battle ready, and it's 5 years later, and they're all ready to go and instantly good. But again, bro Thor, it was funny, but did I really want Fat Thor? Not really. Was it a good gimmick? Yeah, but in this, I think he could have showed his de-evolution a little bit differently, not just Thor's a guy who became an alcoholic and played
Yeah.
video games.
Without a
So I
doubt.
thought that kind of didn't service him as much. But where this movie excels is at its big moments, right? When Cap picks up the hammer. There's not anyone that didn't gasp and
That's awesome.
Cap is worthy. We all knew Cap's worthy, right? When with Wanda and I know a lot of people thought like the A-Force angle was shoehorned in there,
Mhm.
but that really worked for me.
It was awesome. I loved it.
So people can hate on that moment. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. But overall though, there's and I thought they played too much on the Tony Stark funeral when you never saw a funeral for any other hero that died.
Right.
So
Yeah,
all right, great. We see his, but Black Widow just died. All these other, you've seen other heroes die. You never got to see any kind of grief or anything for them. So I thought that was kind of an oversight. And I know why they did it because of what he's been to the MCU, and that character helped build the MCU and Robert Downey Jr. But I still thought it was a disservice to the other characters that were gone.
Absolutely.
But I did like the clever way in which they brought some characters back, like Gamora, and she's a different Gamora now, but the same Gamora, and Loki as well. And I did think all the time travel bits were really good, and it was great seeing, like I said before, the discussion with the Hulk and the Ancient One was great.
Oh yeah, that was one of the best moments.
But again, the might of the Hulk was wasted in both of the Infinity movies.
Mm-hmm.
You had this ultimately powerful character that just gets stronger and stronger, and you never saw it.
Yeah, without a doubt.
He just gets whooped, and his brain is his biggest weapon in this movie, which is fine. But yeah. So that's my take. You guys are tied up 5-5. So I thought I had, and it's a little dour too.
Well, we head home here as we get far from home. Interesting how that works. And Tim rolled a 7.5. I had a 6.5 for an average of 7. And thought it was just relied too much on humor. It wasn't a great story. I thought the Mysterio angle was awful. Using the elementals instead of the real characters really turned me off. I thought Jake Gyllenhaal was good, just wasted in a lot of ways in terms of what the characters were. But I will watch a Happy Hogan film any day. And Tim enjoyed the film a little bit more than I did.
I did. Yeah, again, it still left me with a yearning for an older seasoned Spider-Man. As far as the elementals thing, I think the main person to blame is whoever was in charge of like the promotional material. Because I know when they released the Funko Pops, they had them as
Molten Man and
Molten Man, Hydro Man,
and they weren't those characters.
No, they did manage to slip in some really clever and loving nods to them. For example, on one of the boats that you can see in the shot behind like Ned and Betty, you can actually see ASM and then the issue number where Hydro Man first appeared.
Ooh, good catch. I didn't notice that.
Yeah. And then there's also little stuff too, like when Peter comes out of the shop, or around the time that he goes to get the Black Dahlia necklace for MJ, you can actually see Jake Gyllenhaal in the background, kind of like spying on him. Yeah. So I like those quick little Easter eggs. But yeah, I agree with Dan. JB Smoove was he's hilarious, but he was just way too over the top with the whole witches thing. That got old really fast. I don't know, the whole Nick Fury thing I didn't care for. Um, I like when it's just Spider-Man and villain. Um, I don't get me wrong, I love anytime I can get some Maria Hill being badass, but yeah, the illusion scene, hands down, my favorite scene in the MCU. A close, it's a close second with the trippy scene from Doctor Strange, but this takes the cake. CGI or not, bad CGI, good CGI, it's, pardon my French, it's fucking gorgeous. I loved every second of it. It was so smooth, um, and it didn't need to last forever. Um, it He did his job. He took out Peter with, and I find this really interesting, with that huge sense of sympathy towards him too. Like, he didn't want to hurt him, which I think is fantastic. That um that's very unlike the Gwen Beck you would see in the comics, who's just out for fame as the best illusionist in the world. And I really like that. Um, but when when you get to the final scene, you see just how uh, desperate and almost psychotic, with how he just takes away all the safety protocols and just focuses on all the drones trying to kill Peter. Um, Jake Gyllenhaal really just nailed it. But the hopping around from country to country, it created the same problem as as I had with like the Incredible Hulk, where it's just sectioned out too obviously into 3 acts, with Venice, Prague, and London, and that, I don't know what it is about that that just takes me out of it. But overall, it was a very decent movie. It definitely be dropped down a peg or two if it wasn't for Mysterio. But there's no denying that those heartfelt moments with Happy and the Tulip Field, um, is just some really, really powerful stuff. And I appreciate the hell out of that. Because it's dealing with that, not only grief, but also that sense of trauma, not only what he just experienced, but also, the stuff from Endgame too, kind of addressing that, and also giving him a chance to come into his own and take care of stuff as an individual versus always having help. And thinking about it, I wish I'd rated this a little bit higher. I would have added like another half point to a point on there, because there's a lot to appreciate about this movie. But yeah, there are some parts that deal with the high school stuff that still didn't quite do it for me.
All right, so Gary, bring us home, my man.
All right. Well, this is the movie where Tim takes the win.
Ah,
Tie is broke. Tim gets the point. And
dick.
here's again, Tom Holland's great. The guy playing Ned's great as his friend. And I actually like the humor of, oh no, you can't be looking for a relationship or on vacation. And then he ends up the one being in a relationship. I thought was hilarious. Peter Parker, if he's in high school, he's always got a foil going for the girl he wants. And what I thought they did really good was develop the relationship of him and MJ. And they didn't make MJ someone that had to be saved. She was also helping and capable. And I really liked that. And I really thought Zendaya was really great again as MJ. And this is a movie where I'm like, wow, Mysterio as a villain, how do you even make that work? And I thought they made it work brilliantly. The illusions were great. The only thing I could see as far as shoehorned in writing, which kind of bothered me, is, and none of these movies have done this yet with Peter Parker Spider-Man. Peter Parker is a premier intellect in the MCU, in the comics, right? He's smart. He's a scientist. He wouldn't just, even as a kid, he wouldn't just hand this guy over these glasses. He wouldn't,
Yep.
oh, here, he wouldn't just, someone just gave you your father, your new father figure that died that you're mourning. Even if you didn't feel worthy, you're not just going to hand him to this
Yeah.
dude. You lock him away somewhere. So I thought that was a little convenient. But otherwise, again, the grand illusion of the whole world he set up around Peter to make Peter believe stuff is something that a capable Quentin Beck would do. And I thought it was really well done. And I love the end scene too, when he takes MJ on a swing and she almost throws up. We don't ever do that again, which is what it would be like for a regular person if they were on a ride with him.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. And the reveal, one of the best reveals ever, is that, had J.K. Simmons back as
Yeah.
That was fun.
as J. Jonah Jameson, because he was just the epitome of that. But I thought this was a really strong movie, and I really liked it. And I really liked the interactions with Peter and Happy Hogan again too. Yeah. And Happy Hogan's speech with him was great. And it advanced the Peter Parker character, which I can't wait to see what they do with him in the next movie. Mm-hmm. And like I said, though, I really like that MJ was super capable in this movie. It really added a lot to it for me, and I really enjoyed it. And I thought Mysterio was a really good villain, and I thought they presented it in a way that made it believable, and I really enjoyed it. Besides the misleads aside, just if you're gonna complain about Hydra Man and Molten Man, which I'm glad they weren't in it because it would have been too many villains. It would have been the too many villain syndrome. But it's going to be the same complaint people have about the Mandarin from Iron Man 2, right? Mm-hmm. I thought they were good deceptions, and they're deceptions that made sense with the main character they were portraying. So I really liked it. And again, I thought Tom Holland was great, and I thought the rest of the cast was really good.
So Ant-Man was our highest ranked movie. Thor: Dark World was lowest ranked. And Tim beat me by Gary's score. So congrats.
By only
Tim.
1 point. I think it's closer than you thought it would be, right?
Yes. Much
That's
closer.
a pretty big point.
So Gary, I thank you for joining us.
Yes,
it's been an
thank
epic
you.
journey. And Tim and I will shoot our mid-season finale next week, where we just go through what our audience said is the best portrayal thus far. And I didn't get your pick for best portrayal to add to the list for us to discuss next week. So
in the MCU,
yes,
that is really tough.
It's a tall order.
It is. I think at the end of the day, it would have to be Chris Evans as Captain America, because he was never looked at as a serious actor until this role, and he took this role, and it gave him respect as an actor. And it made him a star. And he took something that nobody thought he could do except for the people who cast him, and he knocked it out of the park. And as good as an actor as everybody else is, most of these people, you already knew their capabilities. And Chris Hemsworth came in and played against what he was typecast as to make an iconic role out of a character. So I'm going to go with Chris Evans.
Okay. And Tim and I will be touching base on that next week for our mid-season finale before we wrap up all the shows and everything else. And we'll also be discussing a giveaway next week. Gary, give your channel a plug. It's one of my favorite on YouTube.
Well, it's Gary B, the Casual Comic Guy. It's just this old dude talking about stuff he likes. I'm not trying to tell people to buy stuff. I'm just talking about books I like, stories I like, and people in the community that I'm trying to help give a start to that are just starting out. So there's a lot of shout outs on my channel. There's a lot of, this is what I got this week. There's nothing that's groundbreaking, but it's all honest and from the heart.
And I love that. I love it so
That's
much.
the stuff that matters.
Gary, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
we'll be back to wrap up all the audience poll for next week and announce our giveaway. Tim and I have been on this journey for a while, wanting to do it, planning to do it. I'm glad we finally got through it. And Gary, I'm glad you joined us to tell me that I'm just wrong about it all. So thank you for that. And
But I didn't though. I think I agree with you a lot more than you thought I would.
you did. And I hope my students hear that because they've all been shitting on my views. So Gary, thank you. Tim, always a pleasure. And we'll see everybody next week. There will be no poll question this week because we've got the answers compiled on them. And I was waiting on Gary's answer for this one to wrap it up and make it a real midseason finale next week. So join us next week for a fun finale. Gary, thank you for telling Tim that he's right and I'm wrong. And everybody tune into Gary's channel just every day because there's always solid content. And thanks again and much love to everybody.
Honestly, take care all.